I'm gonna count down.
Yeah, what it is, hope
we back.
What it is, hopefully is what it should be. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy in Session, the podcast. Today is March the 4th, and the boys are back in town officially this time. You know what I'm saying? As always, wherever you listen to this at, make sure you follow, subscribe, etc., and etc. How y'all doing today, boys?
Feeling great, man. Ready to get the show on the road.
Yes, indeedy. Javar, what's going on with your Playboy?
What's up? We back.
How y'all doing?
Can't wait. This is my favorite time right here, the off season. I like to, figure out what player I want, what player I'm high on, try to get them for the low, So
AKA which player Javar gonna talk about all
all summer.
That means he got him with
Schmilling.
Hey, how many championships that won you?
Which one?
Schmilling? The guy that rhymes with Schmilling?
No, just like Javar in general, like your buys and sells.
I can't remember off the top of my head, bro.
I was talking about Javar.
If Diggs was my buy, I believe Diggs was my buy, and he won me. Him and Allen, I was high on him and Allen last year, and they came.
Lying, but Javar know he'll make up a lie on the spot, boy.
Who was my buy then?
I think Diggs was my buy.
Probably Marvin Jones or something like that.
Nah, negative.
All right, man. As always, man, we want to give a special shout out to all the fallen kings and queens out there. Special shout out to Breonna Taylor. Special shout out to the George Floyd law being passed the other day. Was that yesterday? I think it was yesterday. As always, man, we want to give our moment of silence out to them guys. Anybody that's lost a life this year, moment of silence. And we back. All right, man. We back with another episode. The first
special episode.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
As you probably already know now, I guess you can read the title. We got my man Marcas Grant, NFL writer from NFL Network, one of the hosts of Fantasy Live. Let me bring him on. Yeah, we bet. Welcome to the show, my man. There you go.
What's going on, fellas? Good to be here.
Hey.
Great to have you, Marcus, man. I'm a huge fan of you, bro. I still remember coming home from work and watching NFL Network, like when I was first beginning to play fantasy football and seeing y'all guys on there, man. Like, it's definitely an honor to have you on, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's it's weird because I just finished my 10th season there, which never would have I never imagined doing fantasy football as a job. So to be in one spot for 10 seasons is sort of amazing. So man, I'm fortunate. Awesome. I'm really fortunate.
Yeah, so I was reading and I saw you had you started fantasy football your freshman year. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, well, so I'm a little bit older. I started my first. So I remember I was a freshman in college and was working at the student radio station, and one of the seniors came up to a bunch of us and he's like, hey, I got a fantasy football league. You guys want to get in? And we're like, yeah, sure. Why not? It was a chance to kind of meet people, make some friends or whatever. And it's like, at that point, I didn't know much about fantasy football, but I felt like I knew a lot about football. I'm like, all right, this should be easy. It should be all right. So, I think there's one spot left in the league. And so me and two friends figure well, we'll combine. We'll just take the one spot. So, this is before the internet was a big thing. So we went out to the student bookstore and bought a magazine, a Street and Smith's magazine or something like that. And went up to the draft. I remember our first pick was Dan Marino.
Wow.
And this was, this was before. It wasn't wild to pick a quarterback in the first round back then, right? People hadn't really clued into that sort of thing. So it was all right, picking a quarterback in the first round, nobody laughed at that. Nobody called you dumb for doing that. Yeah. And even though, this was sort of towards the end of Marino's career, you could still expect the dude to go out and throw for 4,000 yards, something like that. Like it wasn't really a big deal. I don't remember who else we had on our team. I just remember the one girl that was in the league she was the girlfriend of the commissioner, and she was from Boston, and she really only knew Patriots players. And so this was, like I said, this was the mid 90s, and the Patriots weren't really all that good. They were like an okay team at best, but she had Drew Bledsoe, Ben Coates, and it wasn't Curtis Martin. I can't remember who her running back was, but like she had those three, and like she made the playoffs and we didn't. That's all I know. Wow. like, it's funny because we're still friends. She still lets me know about that. But that's the time when we were freshmen all these years ago that she beat us and she made the playoffs and we didn't. But it was wild because you really had to be up on it. Like we had to physically call in our lineups. So like on Saturday night we would call the commissioner and on his answering machine, like leave what our starting lineup was going to be. So like, and then if you woke up on Sunday morning and somebody was a late scratch or got hurt, like you had to like scramble and like call a dude back and like leave another message. Be like, all right, so you got to take so-and-so out and put in so-and-so. Then on, Monday morning, Tuesday morning, we get the LA Times, we get the newspaper and like go through the box scores and like try to like, hand tally up who our points were. We didn't necessarily know who the other person. We didn't know who our opponent started necessarily. We could kind of try to guess, but like it was wild. And then like the other part of it was the commissioner lived off campus, so like he would give us the updated stats, when he came to campus. But like sometimes that might not be till Wednesday or Thursday, so we would go a few days before we knew for sure if we won or lost or what have you. Yeah, you had to be really dedicated back in those days.
That sounds insane.
Were you allegedly playing for money?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't much. I mean, I was, 17, 18 years old. I was broke. So it wasn't I think the three of us pooled together like, $30, $40 to like get in the league or something like that, but it wasn't much.
Man, me personally, I check my lineup on Sundays at least 50 times. Throughout the day. So the fact that you guys had to wait till Tuesday and sometimes Wednesday to get your scores, bro, I would be going crazy. I'd be going crazy. I'd be hitting the commissioner up every other second. Like, hey, bro, did you get that touchdown? How many points I got now?
It's funny too because like now, like I used to be like that, right? Like especially when I started this job, I would be the dude who was checking my lineup like all the time. I sort of got to a point where it's like, you know what? Once the games kick off, man, I got no control. So it's like I'll set my lineup. And I generally won't check it again. Like I'll check it, maybe during the Sunday night game, maybe during the Monday night game. I've learned to just let it because I got other stuff going on Sundays. Like I don't need that kind of stress in my life. Checking to see, when somebody fumbles or something like that. Like I've learned to just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
Wait,
I feel you, man.
Like when a highlight just flashed across your screen and it's your player, you're like, wait, that's 70 yards, touchdown catch. That's like
You gotta do the math in your head.
Except here's the thing, like it always feels like it's like when I play, it feels like I never see the highlights of my dude scoring touchdowns, but I always see the highlights of my dude like fumbling or throwing an interception or something.
Or your opponent going off.
My opponent, I always see like if my opponent has some dude who's like scoring his third touchdown in the first half, like I see that all over the place. But like I can't figure out like it's like is my dude even on the field? Like I don't even see him. Like what's going on? So
you end up with 10 targets.
Right, exactly.
Man, so it's not a lot of news, you know what I'm saying? This is normally the part of the show where we get into some of the news and notes. This is pretty much the dry season of the NFL. I think we got 2 more weeks until free agency starts officially.
About a week and a half.
St. Patrick's Day is I think the official start of free agency.
I can't wait.
Any of your one more random question. Who is your favorite free agent right now, and where do you want him to go?
Ooh. Probably Allen Robinson. Look, if I had one wish, I would actually probably use it on ending racism or something like that. But if I had a whole lot of wishes, one of them would be to get Allen Robinson a good quarterback. Look at who he's had to deal with in his career, right? I mean, he went from Blake Bortles to Mitch Trubisky, throw some Nick Foles in there. I think a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I think it was, like Trubisky got hurt and Chase Daniel came in, and I tweeted half jokingly that Chase Daniel might be the best quarterback Allen Robinson has had like in his NFL career. And like people got mad and like jumped in my mentions like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, I don't know. 2 years later, like I stand by that statement. Like Chase Daniel might be the best quarterback.
Ain't too far off.
Right. And you go back to college, he was at Penn State, like Christian Hackenberg was his quarterback. Like, I just want, and through it all, A-Rob continues to prosper. Like he is still, a wide receiver one and still goes out and balls. So like what could he do if he had a legitimate quarterback? So I think he's the guy that I am most sort of curious to see where he goes, because it certainly sounds like he is done with Chicago. I think he's done with the Bears, but I just want to see where he goes. And I hope he gets himself a good quarterback. For
where do you want him to go? What's your dream destination?
So what I had thought, and I don't think it's going to happen. I say this, admittedly, look, I went to USC and I'm a little bit of a homer for USC guys. So part of me was like, hey, how about the Bears re-sign A-Rob? They go out and they get Juju out of Pittsburgh, and then they bring Sam Darnold because I want Sam Darnold away from the Jets, man. Like it's just. I don't know if Sam Darnold could be a great quarterback, but I know it's not going to happen in New York, right? So, let's go get him somewhere where he can have a fresh start. And if he goes somewhere and the situation is right and it just doesn't work, then that's on him. But I'm like, look, let's put him with Juju. Let's put him with A-Rob. I would love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen. So in that case, I don't know, maybe where could he go? Arizona, pair him up with D-Hop maybe and Kyler Murray. I don't know if the price tag works. I've heard talk about like T.Y. Hilton going to, maybe send him to Indianapolis, right? Like the Colts.
I was about to say I would like that.
Yeah, the Colts would be in a nice spot.
The Colts could use some wide receiver help. They don't have a true number one there in Indy right now. Although the question becomes, the Eagles would be interesting, right? The Eagles would be a nice fit for him too. I know with Indy, the big question is like, can Carson Wentz be fixed? Like if no one can fix Carson Wentz, it doesn't really matter who's there. But Indy and Philly, I think, are two interesting spots.
Is Carson Wentz broke is the question. But let's get into some of the news. So we got Big Ben. He agreed to restructure his contract. He's coming back for his 18th season. Is he old news? I pretty much don't care about Big Ben.
I mean,
he looked like it towards the stretch last year, man. Like he looked bad down the stretch, man.
Horrible.
So I guess we'll see this year, man. But I think he might start off good again next year, but then as that wear and tear, gets to him, then he might fall off again next year. So
I like it as far as his the wide receivers and Ebron was usable a couple games throughout the year, so I like it for those reasons. But as far as targeting for quarterback, I'm not buying it. I can't do it. I
mean, we started using the W word with Big Ben at the end of the year, right? I mean, he was washed near the end of last year. And even then, it makes me worried about some of his receivers, right? Like Deontay Johnson's probably the one guy that I trust the most. But like we were kind of half joking that Ben turned Juju into a tight end, basically. Like it was a lot of short. Like the worst thing in the world in fantasy football is having your wide receiver catch the ball and like the blue line of scrimmage line is still on the screen, right? Like that's the worst. And that was what Juju did a lot. It was a lot of quick slants and 3-yard outs and stuff like that. And like that's a hard way to live. I mean, at least Deontay Johnson got some more downfield throws. I mean, Chase Claypool was nice in spots, but he was either like a dude who got you 30 or he got you 6, right? So like that sort of worries me. Like if what we saw from Ben last year was a dude who just can't throw the ball, outside the numbers and push it downfield, that's sort of bad news for everybody in that offense.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that he's still a better option than Mason Rudolph and
Dwayne Haskins though.
And they're still going to throw the ball a lot. I mean, it's in PPR they'll be wide receiver 2, 3, and a lot of flex. They'll be usable.
Volume helps. No doubt.
Definitely.
Upgrading the floor. I understand.
Dwayne Haskins finished into the season as a starter.
So
that wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise. I don't know. Is Dwayne Haskins actually good? Like, do we know yet?
I know he's not bad.
I don't think so. I think
Or do he care?
His attitude is getting in the way of us really like judging his skill set. You know.
Listen, if a man cannot go to the strip club and review film on a Monday, where can he go? If that's what we're getting mad about now,
it's not the only thing though, man. That was like the last straw though.
Right.
That's the last straw. Come on. He's reviewing the film. He was watching the game.
I mean, he was watching something like
yeah.
He didn't do himself any favors, right? I mean, if you're gonna make the coaches upset off the field, like you better ball out on the field. Like he didn't play well enough to do all this other extracurricular stuff. That was sort of the problem for Dwayne Haskins.
They didn't give him a chance either, man. Give my brother a chance.
Yeah, no, like 4 chances though, didn't he?
And like Washington, 3 different coaches.
That whole organization is. I mean, I think they're trying to turn it around. I hope so. I think Ron Rivera's a good coach. They should be the Washington FC. They should have just been the Washington Football Club. They could have leaned into the whole soccer thing. They could have done like scarves, like a soccer. They should have just been the Washington FC. Yeah. Now you got this weird FT thing, and now they're trying to do a whole like I don't know, just
the Washington FaceTime.
I just think WFT is too close to WTF.
WTF. That's what my mind automatically sees when I see that. So.
Jared Cook was released. You think he gets another shot?
Possibly, but how do you feel about until they put in a quarterback that we can't talk about their tight end? Never mind.
It's Jameis Winston.
I mean, I know folks are starting to get excited about Adam Troutman. People love Troutman when he got drafted. Obviously, he was kind of behind Jared Cook right there. But look, there are people who are part of it is that we are thirsty for tight ends. We're just so thirsty for tight ends. So like anybody with a pulse who gets more than 5 snaps a game, somebody out there is gonna give him some love. So there are at least no obstacles to Troutman getting an opportunity this year.
And he has a chance to be the second guy if Sanders not there, possibly.
Third guy.
Oh, Kamara, you're right. Never mind.
The Vikings released Kyle Rudolph. Speaking of tight ends, Big Irv. That's the news around Twitter.
Hashtag let Irv swerve.
Let's go.
I didn't even never heard that one. That was hard.
Hashtag let Irv swerve.
Been waiting 2 years for this moment, man. Let's go.
The last thing I got is that the Texans have re-signed David Johnson. To let go of Duke Johnson, the real David Johnson is back. The real DJ. I like DJ going forward next year.
Why? Yeah.
He had a couple.
He was actually serviceable last year. Like he stayed healthy for the most part, and I think he did what pretty much people were expecting him to do, would give you like consistent RB2 numbers.
Is Deshaun Watson still collecting mail?
But I was just about to say that. Just about to say that.
That's going to have a large impact on
he might get a lot of volume, but without a good quarterback, he's not going to have a lot of scoring opportunities. So it's going to be might be tough for him.
That whole offense, like everybody in that offense, is dependent on what happens with Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I've been I've been liking my Cook shares. Now it's just like if Watson gone. I mean, but Cook have done well with multiple quarterbacks and multiple schemes, so I guess I shouldn't be too worried about him. But it's still kind of.
I don't understand. Like, did Brandon Cook steal somebody's bike? Like, why does he keep getting traded? Like, why does he keeps getting passed around the league all the time? Like, I mean,
head hurt.
He's a good player. Everywhere he goes, like you said, everywhere he goes, he's successful. He's productive. You don't hear any stories about him being bad in the locker room. Right. I just don't understand why it is he keeps getting bounced around from team to team every year.
That is a great point.
Injuries.
I mean, the injuries.
Nobody's going to give you a long-term contract if you're going to, you know what I'm saying? If your next hard hit could put you out for your career, you know what I mean? Like for the 4th, 5th concussion.
That might be anybody though.
Yeah.
But this is like your 4th, 5th, like it's not no, you know what I mean? Like I'd rather go spend that money on somebody young that has no concussions. That's you know what I'm saying? That's
Did
crazy.
He get traded to the Texans last year, or was he a free agent?
He got traded.
He got traded because I think
he keeps getting traded. It's not like he's not
to the Rams, to the Texans.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That was the last bit of news I got. Anybody else got anything?
Nope.
Good.
All right, man. Let's get into the show, man. So what we here for? We got Dynasty Buy Lows.
Buys
Not
and
buy low,
sells.
buys and sells, something like that. So what we gonna do? We go, huh?
Gotta let the guests go first, of
All right,
course.
man. So we're gonna start. What you want to start with? Buys and sells. What you want to go? Do like a little round robin.
Let's start positive. Let's start with buys.
All right, man. So who is one of your first buys this year?
So we kind of talked about him. I mean, right now it's Deshaun Watson. And look, understanding the price is going to be high regardless, but we just did a mock draft for our podcast a few days ago, and I was able to get Deshaun Watson sort of late in the 6th round. Like when the run on quarterback started, I was surprised, a little surprised, because Justin Herbert was the QB 6. Then somebody took Justin Fields, then Trevor Lawrence. I was blown away that Justin Fields went off the board before Trevor Lawrence, but they all went off the board before Deshaun Watson. And when I tweeted it out, I got a few people saying like, there's no way I would take Deshaun Watson in the 6th. That seems crazy. That seems high. And I'm like, well, Deshaun Watson went in the 6th round with – he went in the 6th round last year, right? And there was a lot less uncertainty around him. Like, I'm still okay with him in the 6th round, but it seems like people are sort of scared off. Like, wherever he goes, dude's still a baller. And like he's balled out in Houston despite running for his life behind a terrible offensive line for pretty much his whole career. They keep shuffling his wide receivers in and out. I mean, he loses DeAndre Hopkins last year, still has a great year regardless. So I have no doubt in my mind that wherever Deshaun Watson goes, if he stays in Houston, if he goes somewhere else, he's going to be a baller. And if you're going to let him fall to be like the QB, 8, 9, 10, I'll take that all day. But it seems like people are scared. So at this point, like if somebody in your league's a little bit nervous, throw an offer out there. See if they're willing to kind of back up off of him, and get yourself a quarterback with top 5 upside. I'll take that all day.
Was this what kind of mock draft was this? Superflex?
It was just a standard, one quarterback PPR mock draft. It was just like people just seem scared for whatever reason.
Fields going over him is absolutely insane. Like, I know it's a mock draft, but even in a mock draft, like, what are you doing? What are you doing, bro?
I was shook when I saw that. I was like,
yeah,
wow.
But I definitely agree with that, man. Like, a lot of people were kind of, I want to say a lot of people, but you did hear rumblings last year when Hopkins left that he would kind of take a step back. But like you said, man, he's a baller. He's going to find a way to get things done no matter who's out there on the field. And I just don't think that him changing teams is really going to change that. He's still going to put up elite fantasy production. So,
the only worry I would have is if he decides all of a sudden he's just going to sit out the year. Then all of a sudden, then you got a whole different situation to deal with. I guess it's not.
But with the Texans, what they have in draft capital right now, they will be really foolish, I believe, if they do not ship him. Like, I understand they had all their picks still, but they literally don't have any picks or good picks at that. So
you said the Texans and foolish in the same sentence, like you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah, okay. All right. Good point there. You got me.
All right, let's go ahead. What's one of your buys?
All right, so my buy is going to be a guy I actually talked about last year as a second-year breakout player. It's the receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Deontay Johnson. Kind of touched on him earlier in the episode. But I was actually shocked when I started doing my research because when I saw his ADP, it's at 905. He's going after guys, and this is according to Fantasy Football Calculator. He's going after guys like Sterling Shepard, Henry Ruggs, Christian Kirk, and Mike Williams. That right there is just insane. But he played 15 games last year, but he did leave early in 3 of those games. So if you just look at the stats, it kind of looks skewed. But if you look at the 12 games where he played at least 75% of the snaps, he ranks 1st in targets, 4th in receptions, 12th in yards, 9th in red zone targets, and he averaged 14.4 points per game, which was the 7th most in half PPR scoring. So you have that great production in his second year last year, and then you add that to the fact that Juju is set to leave this year in free agency, which will open up 128 targets. Now, of course, he's not going to get all those targets, but with him having 144 last year, and 128 opening up, he has a chance to, go even higher than 144 that he got last year. So I think that's his floor, the 144 targets this year. So for the fact that him going at 905 with that production, it's just insane to me. One red flag, of course, we all know about the drops. He did lead the league in drops with 12 last year, and he does need to work on that. Like, I do believe that. But I don't think it should scare you away to the fact that you're trying to get these other guys over him. And also, I'm old enough to remember when people use drops to validate guys like Allen Robinson and Mike Evans early in their career. And we all know how they turned out. I think they're pretty elite right now. So
Devontae Adams, too. He was another one.
Yeah, exactly. Devontae Adams. So don't get scared away from the drops. Go out there, send some offers, because you might get somebody that's down on Deontay Johnson, like the guys in these startup drafts right now that's taking Henry Ruggs over him. So that is my buy.
Is Deontay Johnson tied to Ben Roethlisberger being there, though? Do you feel the same way about him if Dwayne Haskins is started at the end of the year?
Well, his rookie year, if you remember, he led all rookies in receptions, and that was when he was playing with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So I don't think that is dependent on Big Ben being there. Of course, I think that helps him, but I don't think it's dependent on him.
Yeah, Gabe, I think Deontay Johnson is one of them guys, bro. You put him out there, he's gonna get open. He may drop a couple, but he gonna find his space and he gonna make somebody miss. He's one of them guys that you want on your team, and I like it.
How many teams you got him on?
I got him. I traded him in mid-season, like two leagues. Yep, had to.
So fun fact. So if anybody that Javar has on his team is going to be, he's one of those guys.
He's going to be a superstar.
If he gets super excited about any player, that means he has them on at least one of his teams. At least one. Minimum. Go ahead. Who you got, Javar?
So I got AJ Dillon. My guy is 6'4", 247 pounds. Try tackling that guy.
How many teams you got him on?
Bro, come on, man. Let him talk, bro.
All right, so he started one game last year against the Titans where he outshined Derrick Henry. He had 124 rushing yards, which is 6 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns and 21 rushing attempts. And he also caught his lone target for 5 yards. And if Jones leaves, this is all on Jones leaving. If Jones leaves, he will be in for a lot. That the offense last year had a total rushing plays of 443, where they averaged 5 yards per carry and 16 rushing touchdown totals through the year. And this was 132 yards per game. Aaron Jones leaves behind 200 plus carries. AJ Dillon is not as athletic as Jones, but he's every bit of upside TD that Jones has, which scored 33 over 3 seasons. And with this, I'm just going with some more facts why you should be going out there and buying AJ Dillon. He's in this offense last year. They ranked second. The O-line ranked second. The offense ranked second in total offense, first in TD scored. They ranked first in regular points and fantasy points in all the players on the team, and 8th in total rushing yards, 12th in rushing attempts per game, 5th in total red zone offense, 2nd red zone TDs, 1st in red zone TD percentage. This is including rushing and passing right there. So they're very efficient. They're going to score much offense. And the one most important fact for running backs is they was 2nd in 3rd down percentage. So he's going to keep getting the ball and keep getting fed. And what I see here when I see AJ Dillon, if Jones Lee's taking over this spot, I see he could be a Derrick Henry, or he could be skipping my mind, the running back they played for Green Bay his rookie year, who came from Alabama.
Eddie Lacy.
It could be
Eddie Lacy.
When he came in.
We'll be going with that comparison. That is sad.
He was very productive.
He said his first year, though. He said his rookie year.
He came as he was very productive. And you place any running back behind his O-line with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be at least a running back too. So you can get this guy cheap right now before Aaron Jones leaves the building. But if for a mid to late second right now, and if Aaron Jones come back, you missed out. But if Aaron Jones leaves, you got a real good running back too.
Here's the thing, though. Even if Aaron Jones comes back, I mean, Jamal Williams is a free agent, so he possibly could be gone too. So there are a couple different ways. I also remember last summer when that picture showed up on Twitter of AJ Dillon at training camp wearing shorts with legs that look like he stole from an elephant, and like fantasy Twitter went berserk. Like, I mean, dude had like huge quads, just like incredibly muscular legs, and everybody on Twitter is like, oh my God, I got to get AJ Dillon on my roster. So I think there's upside, because even if Aaron Jones comes back, I just don't think long term, I still think AJ Dillon's got a future there. You might just have to wait another year or so, but he's got a future.
There's something about fantasy Twitter and quad is like a weird combo.
And
Saquon, AJ Dillon, all of it.
And plus, you put in fact, last year, new head coach come in, even with Green Bay need wide receiver help, they draft a running back in the second round. I believe the head coach went and got his guy, his ground and pound guy that he wants to get the ball to when he gets up and get the ball. And plus, Green Bay has in cap space. They still need Aaron Rodgers to get some receivers. It just makes sense to let that $11 million go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
They also the same team that drafted a quarterback that didn't see the field last year.
That's another thing. They're trying to go in. They're trying to put this in motion. This Aaron Rodgers team. They don't want all that miscue. What are we doing at running back? What are we doing at wide quarterback now? So they just trying to go in one direct motion. So we'll see in a couple of weeks. You will see my Twitter going crazy if AJ is.
I'll be the first to admit that when I was doing like my research, my rookie scouting last year, I wasn't a big fan of AJ Dillon, but that game that he had the full backfield or where Aaron Jones was out and against Tennessee, he did look way better than I thought he did in college. I felt like he didn't play up to his size in college. I always bring up a play where he like tried to jump over the line of scrimmage at the 1 yard line instead of like trying to truck through it. But I didn't see any of that last year. The only thing that will worry me though, and I'm not sure if y'all mentioned it when I stepped away for a second, but it's just I don't see him catching a lot of passes. And like if you're not catching passes, like you could be RB2, but you're just never going to be in that elite tier of options for me. So even
unless
if Aaron Jones leaves, unless you're Derrick Henry, and I don't think we'll see another Derrick Henry in our like AJ Dillon might be that, but I'm not going to
Hey, I was just about to say we're gonna see. And you never know. It's just the scheme he was in. A lot of players. Jonathan Taylor came out. Oh, he can't catch. Oh, he can't catch. Now he's one of the greatest fantasy assets. So you got to go out there on the line sometimes, and sometimes a big fish bite.
I think a thing to remember with stuff like that too is, for some guys, just because they've never been asked to do it doesn't mean they can't do it, right? And I think that you talk about Jonathan Taylor, like Wisconsin, they just don't play that way. They just don't play to like they throw the ball to their running backs. And so like he never was asked to do that in college. So everybody's like, well, he must not be able to catch. But it looks like he can catch all right. It's just that they just didn't ask him to do that before.
Exactly.
So maybe the same. Maybe it's the same thing with AJ Dillon. We just don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes or no around the clock. Lowe's, you would trade a mid first round for AJ Dillon?
No, that's not what he said though.
I said
I'm looking at the comments.
Oh, I wouldn't trade it first. I would not trade it first for him, especially with we don't know if Aaron Jones is.
Yes or no? It was yes or no.
No, I wouldn't.
I would.
Mr. Marcus.
Mid first one? No, not for AJ Dillon.
All right, man. So on to my buy. I got Keenan Allen, man, the 28-year-old unsung hero. Played 14 games last year. I think he played it was like 13 and a half because I remember that one game he caught a touchdown and he didn't play no more. I was pretty disappointed in that. That lost me the game.
Or Las Vegas. I keep saying Oakland. That Las Vegas game where he said, "Don't sit me,"
and he didn't do anything at him.
Yeah, I remember that one too. Dang, why did you say that?
Sorry, bro. Sorry.
All right, but anyway, man, 14 games last year, 992 yards, 8 touchdowns. He finished 14th in half PPR league, tied for 5th in receptions and targets, 100 and 147 respectively. And he was tied for 12th with touchdowns. So I know a lot of people get on to like the older wide receivers, the Julios, I don't know why people think OBJ is so old, but the OBJs, what I'm saying, just the vets, quote unquote, like the vets of vets, you know what I'm saying? And they throw Keenan Allen in that mix too. But I was looking at when I did my little research, I don't know if you know Mike Tagliere, he did a breakdown of wide receivers by the age bracket. So it went like 8.3% of 27-year-old wide receivers finished top 5 in a 96 player pool. 5.3 at the age of 28 finished top 5 in a 94 players pool. 12.3 at 29 at 65 players, and 5.1 at 30. But that's with 58 players. So that shows you right there that even after 28, players are still reaching their prime around like the goats at, if you're a goat vet, you know what I'm saying, like the Julios, etc. The Keenan Allens. I don't know why people don't mention Keenan Allen, but you know he can still finish as a top 5, and even as top 12, 15.6 at 27 years old, 15.9 at 28, and 20 at 29, and 12 at 30%. I mean 12% at 30 years old. So after 29 is when I would be trying to get rid of Keenan Allen. So I think a lot of people are pushing the eject button on Keenan Allen early. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They're coming in with a new coaching staff. Nobody knows how that offense is going to work. They think they're going to pound the ball down their throats because they got a defensive coach, I think, out there. And so Justin Herbert might not fly the ball through the air no more. And so I feel like if you throw a little target, you know what I'm saying, a little probably late first, I would even think for Keenan Allen, I think that's a great price for a stud. He's currently going in the 6th round, the 5th pick in the 6th round in dynasty leagues, behind people like McCole Harmon and Hollywood Brown and Tyler Lockett and AJ and Adam Thielen, who I think he's all better than. So I feel like if people are that down on Keenan Allen, then I feel like you got to go get him.
I would even try to talk somebody down to like a 2nd round again. And I love Keenan Allen. I was sort of right about him last year, but for the wrong reasons. Because I thought, like, I believed in Tyrod. I'm a fan of Tyrod. I just want to see that dude succeed somewhere. You know, and so I told myself a story where Tyrod was going to keep his value afloat. Obviously, that didn't happen. Justin Herbert was way better than I thought he was going to be. And I still think they're going to let him throw it a lot next year. So I think that's going to kind of keep Keenan's value afloat. But I think that age thing will scare people off. So I think that's how you sell it, right? You're like, hey, look, man, the fall off happens at 29. Like, you don't want to be stuck left holding the bag, right? Let me just take him off your hands for a little bit. You know, I'll give you this 2nd round pick. So maybe you can finesse Keenan Allen out of somebody for less than a 1st round pick and still, you know, get yourself a good quality player.
I would throw you a 2nd and McCole Harmon, since y'all like McCole Harmon better.
Easily.
I'm starting to jump off that one, off the McCole Harmon train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting to jump off
Hollywood
that train.
Brown one too.
Well, I think it's becoming clear that they drafted him because they thought Tyreek Hill was not going to be playing anymore. He's going to have a suspension. That's what it seems like, because I mean he's had 2 years and they really haven't. He still was getting out snapped and by Demarcus Robinson and these other guys out here. So I mean, he might have another chance this year, but like Gabe always says, I'd rather see him do good from somebody else's team.
For sure.
I'll say this: I think people have talked me into giving Marquise Brown at least one more chance. I was skeptical. I was skeptical last year, but it seems like the Ravens sort of figured out that, hey, maybe we should do more than just have this dude run verts all the time.
Exactly.
Right, because that's all he was doing. It's just like that doesn't really fit. I mean, Lamar can get the ball there, but that's not necessarily like the strongest way to use him. And I think late in the season, the Ravens were like, hey, maybe we should have him do other things, and he was a lot more productive. So if that's what happens this year, then I'll stop calling him North Hollywood Brown and stuff like that. So.
That's hilarious. I missed the Hollywood train, and I think I'm just gonna let it keep going. I don't like to talk bad about my black quarterbacks, but I mean Lamar Jackson can't hit the ocean if he was standing at the beach, sometimes, and I just can't depend on that. Like, to be drafting him that high, that's what I mean. Like, to be drafting him in the 5th round, like, you putting him out there every week, and I don't think he's a every week player at this point. Let me see. So you got any more buys?
So I'll give you kind of like a combo pack. So because we all want tight ends. Everybody wants a tight end. So Irv Smith is the name that I came up with originally. The price is going up now that Kyle Rudolph isn't in Minnesota anymore. So that's just something to be aware of. So if the price on Irv Smith gets a little bit too high for you, I will suggest Cole Kmet in Chicago, especially if they get themselves a real quarterback. But the other one to keep an eye on is Dawson Knox in Buffalo. Because Josh Allen proved to us last year that he can be a legitimate passer, that he can throw the football effectively. And all these guys, all three of those guys are sort of hitting that age. Tight ends kind of start to pop when they get somewhere between 24, 25, 26 years old, and all these guys are all in that spot. They're all going to get a lot of targets. Komet's going to get a lot of targets because I don't think Jimmy Graham, he's not back. I don't think in Chicago. Yeah, so he's gone. So Komet's going to get opportunities there. We talked about Irv Smith. Dawson Knox is already getting a lot of targets, especially late in the season through the playoffs. They started throwing the ball to Dawson Knox a little bit more. So Smith would be the number one option there for me. But like I said, if the price gets too high, Komet and Dawson Knox are two other names to keep an eye on.
Now to the bad news, man. Who do people have on their team that they should not?
Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
Oh, the two names. I got a couple of Saints at the top of the list. And
maybe this is fans, and I hate the Saints with every bean in my body. Every year,
so you ain't gonna feel bad about this then. All right,
I drafted Saint. They do bad. I drafted Alvin Kamara the year before last. Trash. I drafted Mike Thomas this year. Trash.
He want to be a boxer this year.
Maybe this is a panic move, but man, with so much uncertainty at quarterback in New Orleans, I feel like this might be the time to sort of get out on Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. I talked about that mock draft we did. Thomas fell to the third round, which shocked me. But I think people are just worried, right? With no Drew Brees, like we saw what happened when Taysom Hill took over. Alvin Kamara's production just cratered. And look, maybe it's Jameis, but maybe it's not. Maybe Jameis goes somewhere else, and then all of a sudden you really are kind of starting over at quarterback. And I don't, if you're talking about like in a redraft league, you're talking about the asking price for Alvin Kamara being a top 5 or 6 pick. I just can't do that, not knowing who his quarterback's going to be. And I think right now in Dynasty, if you don't have a guy that is going to throw him the ball, 80, 90, 100 times a year, that production goes way, way down. Same with Michael Thomas. You got opposing DBs out here calling him Slant Boy on Twitter.
Slant guy.
That's just straight up disrespectful.
So bad.
But if you don't have a quarterback that's just going to throw him the slant all the time too, like how comfortable do you feel putting him out there each and every week as your wide receiver one? Like I'm just not about that life right now.
I can get behind it, and I mean, if I'm reading what you're saying, like you're not really discrediting their talent. You're just saying that the situation is uncertain, and
right.
They have that name value to where you could probably still get a pretty hefty return for them. Yeah. So I always I don't treat them like the stock market, but it's kind of similar. Like if you can get a whole bunch for this guy, like you can sell them high and still be good. So I like those names.
I think I kind of hold on Thomas Kamara. I can get behind kind of selling because a lot of running back being the top 5 predicate on the receiving, like you said. But I think with Michael Thomas, like you say, you get a quarterback, all his touches may not be 5-10 yards. He may get some 20 yards, so he'll be more efficient with his reception. So it's more of an open window with Michael Thomas where you can kind of hold and see versus Kamara.
I mean, if it's Jameis, like if Jameis is the quarterback,
right.
And I feel differently about it. Because Jameis will stand back there and throw them YOLO balls, and like I'm
yes,
cool
sir. Which we love for fantasy, baby.
I don't think Kamara would be
blind.
He's not blind no more. He got the LASIK. He's coming back crazy. Watch Jameis come back crazy this year.
I don't think Kamara would get as many receptions. I think that'll be more of a boost for the wide receivers going downfield.
We just had a startup draft. Michael Thomas went 4-2 to Los, of course.
Your boy.
We got a question. They say, what would you give up to get Cole Kmet, a mid-third round pick?
Yeah, I think that's
in
fine.
Draft, I guess.
Not a startup.
But you're talking about a young tight end.
I'm talking about like in a rookie draft. Like, would you give up a mid-third rookie?
Yeah, I'm saying so. You talk, exactly. You talking about a young tight end, and look, as much as I like the opportunity, like I said, I still want to know who the quarterback's going to be. That will have some impact on it, but the opportunity is going to be there for him. And like here's the thing, Cole Kmet was actually pretty good down the stretch. Like if you look those last few games, when it came to their tight ends, he was getting more snaps, more targets, more catches, all of that. The problem is Jimmy Graham kept scoring all the touchdowns. So it's like, I was going out here on Fantasy Live and the podcast and Twitter and telling people like, go get Cole Kmet, go get Cole. And every week, like Jimmy Graham would have more points because he would score. Like he'd have like 2 catches for 10 yards and a touchdown. And so like it got hard to kind of convince people because the production didn't necessarily show, but I'm like, the opportunity is great. And so now if Graham's not there, hopefully some of those touchdowns end up going Kmet's way.
Go ahead.
I think a mid-third is a little too cheap for him, actually. I don't think you can come to my door with a mid-third for Cole Kmet.
Did I just hype him up too much?
Yeah, after that.
Stretch that. Then you didn't hear me say any of that. Then I didn't say any of that. You know.
Who want to go next with this? With that, let's go, Javar. Who you got as a sell?
Well, I'm gonna stick with the same team right now. I'm trying to sell this as best as possible. I'm not saying move on for this guy. I'm trying to tell you sell him for his worth right now because I don't think he will get back to being top 5, especially if he moves the team. And this guy is Aaron Jones. Let's go. Let's get out of town, Aaron Jones.
This is connected to your buy, right? Like you're trying to,
oh my God, you're proving Gabe right, bro. Come on, man. Oh my God.
You like sell RVs? You sell RVs on the side too? Like what's going on here?
Sell salt to a slug. You know me. I'm out here. All right. No, but what I'm really saying is I still think he's going to be a productive guy. But running backs, after they sign a big deal, the production usually dips some. And it's usually because of, once you get that running back, you're spending that money on him, you want to take care of him. So they lessen his load a little bit. He's not going to get as many touches. He's not going to get, they're going to get as many carries. And this has happened to multiple running backs after they're signed a big bonus because the team's like they want to take care of them. And they don't play for a couple of years, and they usually have a guy back up that can play. Let's break up some guys. Marshawn Lynch. Before his year, he had 283 carries, played 16 games, had 317 fantasy points. The following year, he had 76 carries and only played 7 games after he signed his big bonus. And this was predicated because he got injured. But we can go to guys like Devontae Freeman. He had a huge drop off after signing his bonus. The year before, he had 257 touches and played 15 games and had 343 fantasy points, whereas the year after, he had 182 touches and played 14 games and only had 232 fantasy points. We can even go down to Ty Gurley, David Johnson, and even Ezekiel Elliott. Their drop-off wasn't as huge as the other 2 guys. They were more than like 30, 40 fantasy points, but they still got less carries and receptions. Therefore, this is just something to look out for. So if you do get a sweet deal for Aaron Jones, just go ahead and take it because I don't believe he's going to be top 5 again. So right now you can get that top 5 return back for him as far as you wait, because I can even break up another guy, Melvin Gordon. He even took a year off, and he's had a productive year, but he's not going back to Melvin Gordon to the Chargers before we knew him. And it's just a following trend. Once a running back signs that big deal, they don't really get that much usage. And so all I'm saying is he still can be a top 15 back, even flirt with running back 1 numbers. I'm still concerned about his touches. The team that signed him will want to keep their new shiny Porsche clean, untouched, and ready to go. So just something to watch out for. He won't be top 5 next year.
Before you go, Marcus.
Real quick, I was going to ask you a question. Do you have any concern that A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones might sort of cannibalize each other? That that Dillon will get enough touches to mess up Aaron Jones's year, but not enough to be great, and vice versa?
If there, I just think, but I think Aaron Jones would still be a usable running back 1 if he's still in Green Bay, just because he's going to get those receptions and those carries follows as well. Well, we go to Dillon, he's just going to get the carries and probably salvage him a couple times at the goal line.
All right.
Javard failed to mention Le'Veon Bell. You know what I'm saying? You know,
I mean, we've seen that. Yeah.
Another thing, Javar literally was in love with Le'Veon Bell, trying to tell everybody he could for years to go get Le'Veon Bell, but he didn't want to mention that. But we'll go.
So it's funny because last year I didn't suggest in Dynasty going to get Le'Veon Bell, but I really thought that he still had a little something left in the tank. And I was like, I want to see him get traded from the Jets because I just want to see him come back to our fantasy lives a little bit. So then he does get out of New York and he goes to Kansas City. And I watched him a couple of games and I'm like, oof. Man. I mean, it looked like he was running in cement. And I'm like, maybe it's a wrap. And then the best part was, I don't know if you guys saw at the end of the year, he said part of the reason he went to Kansas City was he's like, I just want to go to a place where I wasn't going to get like a heavy workload, where I didn't have to, worry about getting a whole lot of touches and getting hit a whole lot. And I was like, you should have let us know this like a couple months ago.
Right. You're out there tweeting, still draft me. I'm going to come through.
Right? Like if you had told me that a couple months ago, I would have been like, all right, well, I'll just leave it alone then.
He got like multiple 400 plus touches in years in Pittsburgh, I want to say.
In Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not old, but in running back years, he's pretty old. I mean, them touches add up pretty quick.
Quick story. In one of my dynasty startups, there was like 2 years ago, I took Devontae Freeman, then he got hurt, and then Bailey, he wanted to sit out, crushed my whole team. I've been rebuilding ever since, man. So
that was his first year playing Dynasty too.
Quick question from
scooped up all that value that year, man.
Quick question from somebody in the comments. I don't understand it, but they say keep two: Thielen, Lamb, Claypool, Connor, Hunt, and Hollywood.
Thielen,
so
Lamb.
Keep two. I would say Lamb for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Lamb for sure.
Lamb and I like Hunt.
I would probably. It's either Claypool or Hollywood. I'd probably say Hollywood right now, just because even notwithstanding your thoughts about Lamar, I would take Lamar over Ben if I'm picking between the quarterbacks. I want Lamar over Ben, so I'd say CeeDee Lamb, because I wouldn't be surprised if CeeDee Lamb outscores Amari Cooper this year, as long as Dak stays healthy. And then Hollywood. So yeah, I think those are the two.
All right, man. Let's get on to Los. Go ahead and get your sales out of here.
All right, so my sell is going to be David Montgomery, running back for the Chicago Bears. Right now in Dynasty Startups, he's going at 312, the 18th running back off the board. So many people believe that he broke out last year, and he did to an extent. Just to give you some of his numbers, he finished 4th in half PPR scoring, 6th in rush yards, 12th in yards at the contact per attempt, 4th in avoided tackles per attempt. He also, receiving-wise, finished 5th in targets among running backs and 3rd in receiving yards. And that's where I think the selling point comes in. I don't believe he will be able to replicate that in 2021 because, it's been a year. I don't know if people forgot, but Tariq Cohen tore his ACL in week 3 of last year. So that pretty much left Montgomery. I think they had, Ryan Nall that they had back there and Cordell Patterson. So he had no competition last year. So with him coming back, if you remember the previous 2 years, Cohen averaged 98 targets per year. I think he had 104 one year and 91 last year. So it's going to be kind of hard to imagine them just going away from him when he's healthy.
The other part of that is down the stretch last year, Montgomery had a really nice schedule.
Super nice.
He had a look. Props to him because he took advantage of it. Some guys have a nice schedule and they don't do anything with it. So he took advantage of it. But I think between Cohen coming back and the schedule maybe not being so favorable, that has me out on Montgomery.
Exactly. So I'm not saying to just sell him for nothing. I mean, I do believe in his talent, but I think he's a perfect dynasty sell because people might see that number 4 finish, that young age, and they might not realize, like Marcus said, that cake schedule they had down the stretch last year, and they might not realize how much Cohen being out may have spiked his fantasy finish. So if you can get somebody like CEH who had a down year last year, Gibson, or Mixon who also had a down year because he was injured for half of the year, plus something else, I am totally fine with doing that. I would do that any day of the week.
So real quick, how do you guys feel about CEH? this year.
I'm still a buyer. I'm still a buyer.
I'm on the fence right now. I'm not buying them right now. I'm kind of worried about like they pass too much in their offense. They want the ball in one home hand at all times. So I'm kind of worried about CEH at the moment.
I'm sort of like I haven't decided because I feel like last year, he was a victim of our elevated expectations that like we got so hyped on him, and so like when he didn't live up, and he had that first game, he actually played really well. He didn't score a touchdown, but he had good yardage numbers. We got all hyped, and then like he couldn't really come close to that the rest of the year. So we were like, "Oh, this sucks." So I feel like it wasn't anything he did wrong. It was just that we had too much excitement about him. Mm-hmm. The other thing that worries me about him is Damian Williams is probably coming back next year. He took last year off because of COVID, and I think the plan was always to kind of have those two guys be in a little bit of a rotation. And so like I just wonder. Does that eat into some of CEH's touches? I mean, I think they tried it with Lev Bell and Lev ended up being washed. So, but I don't think Damian Williams is washed. So that I have not decided how I feel about CEH right now.
And one more thing, that old line was kind of suspect. Mahomes
they had injuries too late too. That didn't help.
Right. So.
Yeah,
I just think a lot of people got like just we remember Kareem Hunt's historic. Well, I don't know if it was historic or not, but it was a great rookie year, and they were looking at the draft pedigree of CEH, going to that same team, and then when Damian Williams opted out, everybody was like, okay, yeah, this is it.
Right, that's what it got out of control.
yeah, and I just think I just don't think they unleashed him just yet, man, because I don't think they like his biggest plus positive last year was his receiving ability, and they really didn't use him as a receiver last year. So with the full offseason under his belt this year, another year of NFL experience, I think that he can definitely improve on what he did last year. And he wasn't a bum last year. He just didn't just come to our expectations.
That's what I'm saying. It's like our expectations were crazy for him.
Mm-hmm.
So who you draft him before then?
Before CEH?
No. Who CEH? Who you drafting CEH before other players?
Oh, geez. I think I would put him ahead of definitely David Montgomery. I think he's definitely ahead of him. I would say I think you kind of get into that gray area with, he's right around Kareem Hunt, although I might take Hunt ahead of him. Where am I going? I mean, you guys like Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake.
Okay, as long as he's after Miles Sanders, I can agree with you. I
like Miles Sanders.
Those players, not like Miles Sanders, but
I like Miles Sanders. And I think it's gonna be interesting. Like if they start doing like RPOs with Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders, giddy up. Giddy up. So we'll see.
Me and Los literally had a whole heated argument about Hunt and CEH, who was gonna be better, who was gonna have a better rookie year. It was crazy.
Yeah, in that first game, it was looking like I was winning, though, boy.
It ended up not being close, but yeah, after week one, it was a conversation.
But
we also had a heated discussion about Mixon versus Gurley, but whatever.
That was just
Gurley.
That was just empty rhetoric for no reason.
I mean, that was a pillow fight, man.
We were literally fighting over who had more yards per carry, and we was talking about 3.3 and 3.4.
No, you were talking about touchdowns. You said that Gurley was going to finish ahead of him because he had.
Let me get my sleeper off, man. Let me. All right.
There was a point where Joe Mixon was like feet per carry, it wasn't even yards per carry. He was like,
thank you. I won. That just solidified it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
All right, man. Let me get into my sleeper. So we were on the running back train. I wanted to ask you, would you take CEH over Josh Jacobs in a dynasty startup? Because that's my sale right now.
Probably not. Yeah. It's close. Probably not. Here's the thing. I'm not in love with Josh Jacobs. I think he's about peaked. I think he's pretty close to his ceiling. But I think again, Damian Williams coming back, I think sort of eats into CEH's production. There's nobody in Vegas that's going to share time with Josh Jacobs. So at least he's kind of got that going for him.
All right. So he's currently going. Well, let me see where he's going. That's not where I want to start. Anyway, he finished last year averaging 13.2 fantasy points per game, and he finished as a running back 8th but he failed to get over 8.9 points in half PPR league 6 out of the 15 games he played, and he only rushed for 100 yards last year twice. He finished with 273 touches or rushes, that is, over a little bit over 1,000-yard mark and 12 touchdowns. He had those big 3 touchdown games, if everybody remember, where he went crazy with the, you know,
talking about Jacobs, right?
Yeah. Okay. 33 targets, 45 attempts, only 238 yards. He was drafted last year at the end of the first round in Dynasty startup drafts, the 7th running back off the board before running backs like Derrick Henry, the King, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, and James Robinson. But of course, nobody knew about James Robinson, but all these people that finished over him. 2021, he's going in the 3rd round, the 13th running back overall, above people like Austin Eckler, James Robinson again, and Antonio Gibson, who I feel like all 3 are better than him and will have a higher finish than him. We've seen it like back-to-back years now. He went up 13 receptions from last year. He had 20 his first year, 33 this year. But we've seen it. They're not going to try to give him the ball. They're trying to they have showed that they're going to give us anybody that they can to possibly catch the ball out of the backfield. The Lynn Bowden thing didn't work out, you know what I mean? But they tried. They're Jalen Richardson.
Did they though? They traded him before.
That's what I'm saying.
Did they?
But I'm saying they drafted him though. They drafted him with purposes of him being in the backfield, you know.
Right.
I just think like you know what I'm saying, he's a running back 8, quote unquote, this year. But if you had him on your team, you didn't feel that running back 8 power. So if you can sell him at a running back 8 price right now, you know what I mean? I feel like this is as high as he's gonna get, because I feel like he's gonna be this same running back, and he's not gonna get the pass catches, and he's not Derrick Henry. And I don't think that offense is gonna look good unless they get Deshaun Watson. Now they get Deshaun Watson, but I feel like as long as they have Derek Carr out there, that offense is gonna be pretty mundane. You know what I'm saying? That's just his role.
If they get Deshaun Watson, I'm way in on Henry Ruggs.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I like Ruggs' talent. I just don't think he fits in that offense with Derek Carr at quarterback. But if we're talking about Deshaun Watson there, then Henry Ruggs has he's got Will Fuller type potential. Like,
So do you think you don't think Raiders going to try to get a free agent wide receiver out there?
I don't know.
They gotta find a quarterback first.
It's weird. Like, the Raiders and Derek Carr, they're like that weird couple that should probably just break up, but for whatever reason they stay together. And everybody looks at them and it's like, yeah, like, you're not a terrible couple, but you probably both could do better, you know, sort of thing. But they kind of stick together. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, they do need somebody, because I don't think Ruggs is a fit. I liked Bryan Edwards, but he was pretty much hurt most of the year last year. They just let go of Tyrell Williams, who signed in Detroit. You know, like I love Nelson. Look, I'll ride for my USC guys, so I love Nelson Aguilar, but like you just can't live with him as your number 1 receiver. You just can't. So they got to figure something out there.
I know we got to get out of here, man. I wanted to ask you maybe a couple questions before we get out of here.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody that's starting or want to be like following your footsteps, or in the podcast and the reporter in the game, or you know what I'm saying? Just what would you tell them?
One, I think, you know, just from a technical standpoint, just take advantage of all the technology, man, that you got at your fingertips. Like, you know, when I was coming out of college and wanting to get into broadcasting and that sort of thing, like, it was a lot harder. Like, you really had to find jobs or find internships and stuff that would let you do it. Like, the internet was not as big a thing. We certainly didn't have social media then. So like now, between, you know, Twitter and YouTube and Instagram and Periscope and like all these different ways to kind of get your stuff out there, like it just gives you more opportunities to work on your craft. So I mean, you know, it's like anything, man, just reps help. So that's a big part of it. The other part is, I think, in terms of, you know, if you're trying to do like stuff in the fantasy industry, the fantasy sports industry, it is a growing community. It's great to see more folks who look like me doing it, because there weren't a whole lot when I started this thing 10 seasons ago. But everybody, for the most part, is very engaging and very welcoming. So just, you know, especially on Twitter and stuff, be a part of the conversation. Just try to make those connections and make them genuinely, like, you know, get in the conversation and talk to people like they are actually people. Like, I am a lot more willing to engage with folks who actually talk to me like a person instead of like some sort of fantasy advice ATM. Like I'm just, you know, like, so like have those conversations, like, you know, like don't, when a topic comes up, don't be the person who just immediately jumps in with like a link to your work and like your podcast, like, you know, talk to them like human beings. And I think that will kind of get you in that conversation. That will get people to kind of look at your work a lot more. So just that. And like I said, just getting reps in, man, any way you can, you know, make your mistakes. You know, I know everybody wants their podcast to get 1 million downloads and be seen by 1 million people, but, you know, make your mistakes when there aren't as many people watching too. So that definitely helps.
And one more question before we get out of here, man. I seen like you was a big cartoon guy, you know what I'm saying, growing up in video games and et cetera, et cetera. What's your favorite cartoon of all time? Like if you had just a whole day, no kids, no nothing, and you could just watch TV, a series, like binge it.
Man, that's a really tough call. It's funny too, because I have a kid now. My son's about to turn 2 in a few weeks. And I keep trying to get him to like watch different things with me, and he's like, whatever, man. Not yet. Not yet. Man, it would probably be, here's the thing, I would probably go old school and just like go start binging on like old Bugs Bunny cartoons or something like that.
I thought you was going Marvel. Like X-Men,
you know, it's funny.
I think he was X-Men or something.
That, you know what, that X-Men, that Marvel X-Men cartoon was one of the greatest. That
classic.
Like the superhero cartoons that are great were that one. Batman the animated series. That was amazing too. The one that had Mark Hamill as the voice of the Joker. Those were great. Like more recent stuff, like, you know, some like more adult type cartoons, like Rick and Morty. I can watch Rick and Morty all day.
So underrated.
Rick and Morty is great. It's funny. I remember like I'd watched a couple seasons of it, and somebody was just like, "So wait, are they just making fun of Back to the Future?" And it never occurred to me that like, yeah, it's totally a Back to the Future spoof. So yeah, I don't know. Like, wow, nobody's asked me that question. Like, I never thought about it. That's deep because like there are so many ways I could go with that.
Anime?
I see, bro.
Anime?
Yeah. So it's funny. I watch One Piece still. Like, I think I'm on episode like 985 or something like that. Like, I watch all of that. But like, we're just talking about like my favorite go-tos that I go back to all the time. I think my favorites, it's a toss-up between either Samurai Champloo or Cowboy Bebop, which is funny. Like it took me a couple of watches to kind of latch on to Bebop, and then like the most recent time I watched it, I was like, what was I on? Like, why didn't I just love this right away? For whatever reason, it just finally clicked.
Old.
I guess so. It was like but the third time I watched it through, I was like, what was wrong with me? Like, I should have been on that. And then like, you know, we're talking about like old school, like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Is one that I watch late at night when nobody else is, like when I'm up by myself, because like I'm sure that, you know, like it's way too advanced and too old for my kid, and like my fiance doesn't care, so like I watch it, like I watch it when I'm up at late night.
Naruto.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I watched it for a while, and then they went through like 3 years. It seemed like where it was just like filler episodes. Like they just got away from the main storyline. It was just filler episodes, and then so I just kind of fell off. Google. And so like now he's got a kid, right? It's like they got like Boruto.
Yeah. Or whatever. You go to Google, find all the fillers, skip them.
That's what I need to do.
I watched a couple of the Naruto, and it was like, man, this is like 3 episodes where he's like, did he do the
oh yeah, no.
Oh my god, what am I going to play? 8 minutes saying that. And I'm like,
spend a month setting up a fight. Like like they will talk trash for like 3 weeks and then finally fight. And I'm like, let's get to it already.
The most epic fight, bro.
It is, right? But like, yeah, like, especially if you're just getting into it, you're probably like, why don't they just fight already?
Man, we want to thank you. Another thank you for helping us with the session takeover tournament, man. That was big of us. Of course, we, like you said, man, there's not a lot of people that look like us out here, so that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do it. And then we had to do something, you know what I'm saying, to bring, you know, awareness to, you know what I'm saying, in the best way we could, you know what I'm saying. And we want to thank you for that, reaching out and helping us out with that.
I appreciate you guys inviting me in there, man.
Yeah, man, and hopefully you can come back next year. Maybe you win. The winner is backstage right now. He the producer, low key, when he show up or whatever. But man, we want to give you a special thank you, man. We know you got to get out of here, and we're gonna go ahead and end the episode like that. Anybody else got anything?
Thank you, Marcus G, for coming on, man. It was an honor to talk fantasy football with you, man. Good luck this upcoming year, man.
Same to you guys, man. Appreciate it. Keep doing what you do, man. I always like connecting with new folks, man. So I thank you guys for following what I do and inviting me on your show.
Thanks.
Hey, man, you're a friend of the show. Anytime you want to come back, round of applause. Hey, we out, man.
All right, man.